The first thing I want to mention here is that we need to make a distinction between evolution and creation. I say this because many scientists, particularly atheistic-minded scientists, have a tendency to, to put these two together or to equate the two together. That is, for them, evolution and creation are roughly the same, and evolution is talking about creation. But in my presentation, and also in any serious presentation, these two cannot be and will not be considered the same, because creation, as I mentioned last time, creation is talking about, at least in the philosophical and the deeper sense, it is talking about bringing something out of sheer nothing. It is not a question of, something already exists and that is restructured. And this restructuring you call creation. That is a very loose and very superficial and philosophical way of thinking about creation. That is not what we understand by creation. At least that is not what I understand by creation. And creation basically would mean that bringing about or bringing into existence certain things, certain fundamental things, elementary things, or initial things. And then evolution is that from these initial things or these elementary things, through certain processes, more various other things which are found in the universe, including humans, are produced, are brought to existence or brought to being. And this is evolution. So evolution, as understood by me and as understood by this particular program here, is a sort of a transformation of what was there in the initial stage or the initial conditions there, and so from there all these things come. Now, when you think about initial condition, if you go by science, one would say energy is the initial condition. From energy, as you know, from energy, according to Einstein's understanding, Einstein's equation, we can get matter, material particles. And now quantum theory also will tell us about that. Quantum fluctuation is all about that, And so from energy, you can get matter, and also, of course, some principles will have to be there to guide the way interact with each other, and through the interaction, various things are produced. Well, all these things require certain laws, and someone has to give those laws or bring these laws into being. And who does that? And all those things are to be found. And certainly, theory of evolution will not tell you about that. Anyway, so I wanted you people to remember that evolution and creation are not the same. They are very, very intimately related, but they are not the same. Okay. With this caution, let us move into our subject itself. Okay. Some introductory points which you all know, so I go fast over it. What is evolution? Who can see this transcript recording on? I get a message here, a participant has enabled closed captioning. Who can see this transcript?
Yes, it's okay, no problem.
All right, very good, very good. All right. So the general idea of evolution, that the general idea is this: the universe and the different beings in it did not arise as finished products. And this would be, Book of Genesis view if you want. That is not what we have in mind here. Rather, the different things in this world appeared in the course of a gradual, continuous, and progressive process. This is the basic idea of evolution. Now, some specific views. Darwin's view. Darwin's view is considered to be the most scientific one, and so we will, we will be focusing mostly on the Darwinian view in this presentation here. Okay. Now, what is the general sense of the Darwinian view? The general sense of the Darwinian view is that it is a theory that holds that the different species in the universe arose from a common ancestor through descent with a modification which was driven by natural selection. Okay, you can look at this thing carefully and understand it. I will not spend any time here unless you want me to. So I will proceed further. Okay, now let me get this a little bit out of my way here. Please excuse me. Neo-Darwinian view. What is this Neo-Darwinian view? Okay, Neo-Darwinian view is basically a hybrid or integration of Darwin's theory or Darwin's ideas with the ideas of Gregor Mendel. Gregor Mendel, as you know, is the father of genetics. He is the one who gave us the concept and the idea and reality of genes. And once Mendel's ideas were integrated into Darwin's theory, the Darwin's theory could work. We will see a little bit of that later on. And so when these two were put together, integrated into each other, we have a new product, new hybrid, if you want to call it that way, came out, and that is usually referred to as the Neo-Darwinian view. And today, when people talk about evolution, they have in mind this Neo-Darwinian view. I'm talking about scientific idea of evolution or scientific theory of evolution. They have mostly in mind this Neo-Darwinian view. Then there is another view which is also referred to as evolution, and that is mainly by Lamarck. Lamarck, the French scientist, biologist, in 1809 gave, long before Darwin, gave his theory, his version of the theory, and that is known as Lamarckianism or transformism. And this theory, this says that it's a theory which claims that changes occur within a lineage of populations. But lineages do not split. There is no speciation, and lineages do not become extinct. And this understanding of evolution is known as transformism, and this was mainly propagated by Lamarck, the French scientist, in the year 1809. What you have in mind is, that because of natural conditions or natural pressure, the beings undergo change. A particular being undergo change. The great example given is giraffe. The neck of a giraffe, The neck of a giraffe, is very, very long. And according to this theory, how did it happen? The giraffe, there was a shortage of food, and the poor giraffe began looking at all the down things on the ground were all over. And so be looking up, and he saw something, and poor fellow could not catch it. So began, trying. So this fellow tried, and then little bit of, if you want, lengthening of this thing took place, but not sufficient enough, let's say. And then the next generation of giraffe will have a little longer neck. And then again, the neck gets lengthened and lengthened. So a whole lineage, a line of beings, undergo. At the end, you have got a real giraffe, whose neck is long enough so that it can get food from above. From above means from the trees, which are tall trees, and then feed itself and then survive. And this kind of understanding is transformism. Next version of evolution is theistic evolution. This is the hybrid in which religion, the concept of God is integrated into Darwinian theory or evolutionary theory, the scientific evolutionary theory. That is a view that scientific theories and evolution, scientific theories of evolution and religious belief in God are compatible. You know, these two can go together. In fact, they are complementary. And scientific theories certainly are valid, and they have a place in explaining how the various things in this universe came to be, appeared on the surface of the earth. But they also require, you know, the explanation also requires the mediation, the intervention of God, so a supernatural entity. And this kind of evolution is referred to as theistic evolution. And most Christian scientists subscribe to this view. For instance, Teilhard de Chardin and many others, they all subscribe to the theistic evolution. For good reason, not because they are pure, you know, they are pious religious, not because of that. They have very good reason for thinking, for, you know, subscribing to this view. Okay. The last one I want to bring to your attention is intelligent design. And what is this? It's a view that life and related phenomena in the universe are so complex and complicated that they cannot be explained by scientific theory of evolution alone. And hence, they must have been designed by a supernatural entity. Okay, it is it's somewhat similar to theistic evolution, but in a different way. Okay, so this one is known as intelligent design. You know that design. He talks about design, God or some supernatural being having a design, and things are moving according to the design. And here the main person is Dembski, scientist in the US, and he has got several books and so on. And he gives his version of evolution, which is known as intelligent design. Okay, so now we move on to the next slide, and that is the mechanism of Darwinian evolution, which is called natural selection. Now, you know, although I have mentioned to you 4 or 5 different varieties of evolution, our focus will be mainly on the Darwinian version of evolution, because the Darwinian theory is considered to be the most scientific and scientifically most highly respected version. So we will be focusing our attention on this. And so what is the mechanism by which the Darwinian evolution, or the process of Darwinian evolution, is brought about? And this mechanism is referred to as natural selection. Now, briefly put, natural selection refers to the mechanism of Darwinian evolution as given in the Origin of Species of 1859. What is this principle? According to this principle, among variations of traits in a given population, those traits which are useful are preserved and handed down to the succeeding generations, giving rise to new species. So this mechanism is a mechanism used for the production of new species. Okay, and how does it go? You see, Darwin, if you read Darwin's original book of 1859, he will talk about variations. In the beginning of chapters, he will talk about variations. You see, any group will have variations. So let us talk about amoeba, bacteria or amoeba, or let us come to a little higher one. As I was mentioning last time about frogs. So let us come further. Dogs. They say we have got a huge, number of dogs. And from dogs, animals which are better or higher than dogs come about. This is what Darwinian theory wants to explain. So we have got dogs, and let us say that some of these dogs, lots of them are there, they have got short legs. The dogs have got short legs. Okay. And so Darwin will say some of them got short legs and some got long legs. And then when it comes to when it is a question of getting food, and Darwin assumes that there is always less amount of food than needed. And so there is, there is a fight for survival and survival of the fittest. So what happens, the food is only limited amount only there, and it's, let's say it's kept a little bit far away, and the dogs see it and they all run for the food. And the sooner you reach there, the better the chance of getting the food. So they reach there. Now those who have got long legs, what will happen? Those who have got long legs, they will reach there faster. They will reach there faster and they will get the food and they will, enjoy the food and they will survive. And those who have got small legs, what will happen? They will never make it. They will never make it. So every time it happens, they will starve and they will die, and that's the end of them. Whereas the ones with the longer legs will, mate with each other, and the next one will be with the long legs. And slowly, let us say, of course, since I'm talking about legs, let's say, slowly, a new species will come. And what will be the new species? The race horses, the horse. Horses' legs are very long and very strong, and they have come from dogs. Whether it is correct or not, I cannot say. But in any case, this is how it happens. Some animals which got long legs will come out of the short-legged beings through natural selection. So that means that this is what he is talking about. So you'll be given the slide. I mean the PowerPoint, so you can quietly read this thing and understand it. I'll not spend too much time here because of limited availability of time for me. Another one, emergence, I will leave it out here. If you want, you can ask me later on. Okay. Now, I'm going to, as I've already mentioned to you, most of our discussion will be focusing on Darwin's evolution. So let us go into some details with regard to Darwin's evolution. First of all, some remarks about Darwin's evolution. The first point I want to mention is, please do not think that, Darwin in 1859 suddenly came up with the theory of evolution. And, he was a super genius because nobody could think about this. He suddenly came up. Not at all true. Not at all true. Darwin's own grandfather had, evolutionary theory. But Darwin, as I mentioned already, had the best scientifically supported theory. Okay. So he had many predecessors. Darwin had many predecessors, and the French biologist Jean-Baptiste Lamarck, remember I already mentioned Lamarck, and he had his version. It was presented in 1809. And also there were Alfred Russel Wallace, a German scientist. As you know, Darwin was a British scientist, and contemporary of Darwin was a German contemporary was Alfred Russel Wallace, a contemporary and collaborator of Charles Darwin. He proposed the theory of evolution by natural selection independently. Actually, both of them presented this theory more or less at the same time. But as it happens, Darwin's theory was accepted by the scientific community for the first time. So, Alfred Russel Wallace lost out in this race for priority. And Darwin got the priority, and the theory is now given, the honor is given over to Darwin. Okay, next one. Two books which Darwin wrote, which were groundbreaking books. And I think I may have mentioned it already to you, but let us put all these things into proper perspective here. And the two books are, the first one, On the Origin of Species, which was published in 1859. And this was the beginning of the Darwinian theory, 1859. And the second book he wrote, published in 1871, and the title of that one is The Descent of Man. Both these books are fundamental for our understanding of evolution. The first one talks about the general ideas about evolution in general and so on. And the second one, The Descent of Man, speaks specifically about humans, the arrival of humans. And I mentioned here at the bottom, you can see scientifically perhaps the former one is significant, more significant, but religiously, the descent of man that talks about the coming of humans, that will be more important, religiously speaking, because there you are talking about humans, and religion, as far as we know, is only for humans. And so the impact on religion, the religious aspect will be very strong when it comes to the second book called The Descent of Man. All right. The next point I want to talk about is, now let us take the first book, 1859 book, the fundamental book. How was it received? What kind of reception this, this revolutionary book had, or revolutionary idea had, on the intelligentsia and later on the ordinary people. Intelligentsia first. The thing we all should remember, and this of course is not brought out by the popular press, is this, that the first persons to disagree or find fault with Darwin's theory, the first persons were the scientists. It is not the case that only religious people, began attacking Darwin. In fact, religious people in the beginning did not speak much. Just like in the case of De Revolutionibus, Copernican revolution, there also, in the beginning, it was the scientists who opposed or who found fault with this thing. Similarly over here, okay, similarly over here. And so now I'm going to discuss some of the great scientists of the 19th century, who established scientists, specialists in their own field. And I want to mention only their name. I will not go into their theories and so on unless you want me to go, that we can do the question answer session. The first one is Georges Cuvier. He was a very great paleontologist. Paleontologists, as you know, these are the people who study about old things. They dig up and then they excavate things and they find pieces of bone or various things. They find fossils. Fossils is their main item of study. Fossils and other things. They study this, and very brilliant people. And on the basis of this kind of studies, they come up with a history of history of a particular group or particular species or particular branch of living beings and so on. So Cuvier was one, and he had a difficulty because he was wedded to the idea that nature cannot change. Immutability of nature, he was wedded to that idea. And here they are talking about change of things and so on. So he had difficulty about that. The next person was a physicist, Lord Kelvin, a very famous physicist. If you do the physics and then thermodynamics, and Lord Kelvin is a very, very significant person. Okay. Now, what did he do? He was also a very deep religious believer. And so he was not happy with this. And he did a lot of research. And then he found out the age of the earth. And on the basis of his finding, finding of the age of the earth, he showed that there was not enough time for the Darwinian evolution to take place. If Darwinian evolution goes by natural selection or that kind of mechanism, there wasn't enough time. And because Lord Kelvin had calculated the age of the universe, age of the earth at least, on the basis of his thermodynamical studies. Unfortunately, Lord Kelvin was wrong, because when he studied this, he had this X-ray effect, or what do we call it? Not X-rays, radiation. That I don't get the exact word now. So one of you can help me. It's fine. Radiation in the sense of radioactivity. Sorry, radioactivity was not known. Radioactivity came after Kelvin proposed a theory, and radioactivity changes the whole thermodynamical condition of the universe, of the Earth. And so, strictly speaking, Lord Kelvin's theory objection was solved later on with the development of science. So the next one, we will go into Claude Bernard. Claude Bernard was a very, very famous French scientist. He was a very leading physician, and he did a lot of surgery and all kinds of things. He was not at all impressed. He says, this theory is, some kind of speculation type Goethe and all those literary figures, is more like literature than science, he said. He was the scientific dimension he questioned very seriously. Claude Bernard. He was a very, very strong empiricist. Everything has to be observed according to him. And of course, in Darwinian theory, many things could not be observed directly, and so he was not impressed. Another person is Fleming Jenkins. Jenkins' Review of the Origin in 1867. And here, this point we will discuss later on. And here he had trouble. And Jenkins' objection was a very serious objection. Jenkins was asking Darwin, how will you explain this inheritance theory? What is the inheritance of characteristics? You are saying natural selection is selecting out advantageous characteristics and passing it on to the next generation, inheritance. How will you explain this one? And he had a hell lot of trouble. And in fact, Darwin was helpless. And this is where our friend Mendel's theory helped him out. If Mendel's theory wasn't there, Darwin would have been in deep trouble, at least in the initial stages. Or somebody had to discover Mendel's theory. Anyway, so Mendel's theory came in handy and solved the problem. But the objection was raised by a scientist, namely Fleming Jenkins. Fleming Jenkins, not Fleming, Fleming Jenkins. Okay, so my point here is, scientists were the ones who are opposing it. John Herschel was an astronomer, a very famous astronomer, very, very good astronomer. Okay, and Herschel, he also, he was not impressed by this. He said it is a higgledy-piggledy, higgledy-piggledy, so hodgepodge in our language here in India, we'll say it's a hodgepodge. It's something fishy about the whole business, they said. Okay, so that was John Herschel, the astronomer. Okay, all right. Now, this is the scientists who had difficulty with Darwin's theory, but there were others who were supporting him. And some supporting scientists, their names are given here. The main one I want to mention is Darwin's contemporary scientists like Joseph Hooker, Charles Lyell, Thomas Huxley, and so on. So there were scientists who supported him as well. But controversy was there in the world of science. That's what I want to bring to your attention. The next one is I want to mention here is a contemporary scientist who got the Nobel Prize in physics in 2020, just a few years ago. Very brilliant man from England. And he says, I am only reading the last part, the part presented here in bold. And since he is a very, very balanced person, I have great respect for Roger Penrose. And I'm extremely happy that he got a Nobel Prize, because I was wondering whether he would ever get a Nobel Prize. But he got in 2020, I think, 2021 or something. He says, to my way of thinking, there is still something mysterious about evolution, with its apparent groping towards some future purpose. Things at least seem to organize themselves somewhat better than they ought to, just on the basis of blind chance, evolution, and natural selection. He says there seems to be a sort of a lucky break. This Darwin's natural selection to work, there has been lucky break, unusual lucky break on many, many occasions. Without that, to reach this kind of situation seems to be very, very unconvincing. Basically, this is what he's saying. And let me confess that I wasn't thinking about this. I mean, I was very happy that I could find this statement in Penrose. I found it only a few months ago, maybe a few years ago. Earlier, I was struggling to find something like this. But I personally also think the same, that, if you really look at it, there has been lots of luck for the evolutionary process done on the basis of natural selection to produce the world which we have now in less than 4 billion years, because our Earth is less, 4.5 or even less billion years old only. And to produce all these things here by sheer natural selection seems very, very highly improbable, unless they got many, many lucky breaks, which we normally call miracles, came in their way, and they've benefited from that. And this seems to be the observation Roger Penrose is making. Now we come, so this is about the scientists' reaction to the theory of evolution. Now, what about religious scholars? And this we mentioned earlier, but let me once again briefly mention these things to you. The Catholic Church did not react to origins directly in an official way in the beginning. And as I mentioned, we came up also in our discussion last time, Vatican I Council did not say anything about evolution, at least openly. And it attacked many aspects of physical sciences, physics and so on, many, many aspects it attacked. But I could not find anything, any statement of Vatican I Council which directly opposed this theory of evolution. Of course, one thing is that it was 1870. There wasn't enough time for the church theologians and so on to study this matter. On the other hand, Cardinal Henry Newman, who was a convert from Anglicanism to Catholicism, he looked at the book, that means Darwin's book, very positively. And I think we discussed this thing last time. And his basic idea was God was very clever, and God simply made use of this method. And the book of Genesis doesn't tell us in what method God made use of for making various things. Even if we take only 6 days, but even those 6 days, what kind of what method God followed didn't say. And God, being very smart, will not go around doing the whole thing all by himself. God himself will not be doing all these things. God asked nature to do the work. God gave the directions, and God gave all kinds of powers and so on, and then gave directions to nature, and nature followed it up. So that is the basic idea of Newman. And so for him, it redounds to God's power, God's wisdom, and God's capability, rather than undermines God's capability. Evolution should be welcomed rather than discouraged. And this was basically his idea, because God's glory, God's honor, God's wisdom will be better illustrated if you subscribe to Darwin's theory of evolution, at least in the way Newman understood it. Okay. The next one is Church of England. Now the Church of England, the Anglican Church. Church of England, on the other hand, took an antagonistic view, although there were liberal Anglicans who applauded the book. And then we have got a debate between, the so-called debate, Oxford debate, between Samuel Wilberforce, Bishop of Oxford, and Thomas Huxley. And, if you go to the net, you can read this thing. But you will find the historicity of this debate is in serious question. Some people say it is partially something like that. It was certainly not as part of the program there. In between, when they had interval time, there was some kind of a discussion or some kind of a debate like this. But strictly speaking, it was not an open debate, as some historians have shown it. And that is what I have found in the most recent write-up about this debate. But you may read it in this one, between these two. And now French and German reaction. The French and German reaction, according to John Farley in his study of 1974, the German scientists accepted Darwin's ideas with as much enthusiasm as the French rejected them. There is a big difference, that 180-degree difference between the French attitude towards Darwin's theory and the German attitude towards French theory. The Germans welcomed it in many ways, whereas the French rejected it. The French very much looked upon Darwin's view as a continuation of their own countryman, namely Lamarck. Lamarck was a French. And so they simply thought, it was a continuation or a refined, a different version of Lamarckian theory of evolution. And so they began attacking it just as they attacked Lamarck's theory. Their theoscientific spirit still persisted, and they remained open to the possibility of divine design in the case of the universe, and the role of the final cause in the development of life forms and so on. In other words, they basically had the traditional view, the French people had traditional view, and so they wanted some supernatural agency to be involved in the creation of the universe, not pure natural agencies and then natural selection and so on. They were not happy, they were not satisfied with it. And that is what they are saying. Now, so I've been speaking so far about the first book of Darwin. What about the second book of Darwin? Remember, second book, the title is The Descent of Man, talking about how human beings came into being. And this book was published in 1871. So what was what kind of reaction did this book receive? As I said, religiously, this is a very sensitive issue because the human dignity, human being, and the human person is central to this particular book and the concerns in this particular book. Some of the main issues in this debate or this reaction were the difference between humans and ordinary animals, the move to dispense with any special role of the divine in the formation of humans, and the non-teleological character of the evolutionary process. So, some of the traditional ideas, how can you compare humans with an animal? Certain ways maybe we have some animal-like behavior, but certainly big difference between a pure animal and humans. That they one of their concerns. And second one is the matter of the soul, the spiritual dimension in humans. The human's ability to have self-consciousness and all those things. And so the soul, from where did how did the soul come into this evolutionary process? Was the soul also part of the evolutionary process and this kind of situation? And then of course, the goal, how come that these things were working so nicely that higher and higher animals were coming. At the end, at the pinnacle of the whole creation comes human being. How did these all things orient itself or point itself in so nicely that a human being came out at the end? So all these were serious concerns these people were having. Now I am also mentioning some of the problems which Darwin's theory had. And as I mentioned, you remember that Darwin had a big problem. The original version of Darwin had a big problem with regard to inheritance. And this is what the point we want to discuss. And I mentioned to you that inheritance was a serious problem. And then Mendel's theory of genes helped bailed Darwin out of the situation, and neo-Darwinian theory came. That is the point here. According to blending theory, what the offspring inherits is the average of the parents' values of the particular characteristic. For instance, we make it very simple. Suppose the two parents, they are giving rise to an offspring. And let us say that one parent, the characteristic we want to consider is height. one parent is tall, the other parent is short, and they, they have an offspring. So according to Darwin, what is happening is, so suppose one has got 6 feet, so one is 6 feet tall, the other one is only 4 feet tall, and then, the child coming out will have 5 feet. So that was a very nice mathematical way of doing it. So the child coming out will have a 5 feet, not 4 feet, not 6 feet, but 5 feet, different from both parents. Okay. Now, as I said, Jenkins had difficulty with that. Other scientists also had difficulty with that. That if this goes on like this, now you see this this height. The advantage is height has to be developed and passed on to the next generation, in subsequent generation. Now, if it goes on dividing like this, it has become half. Then it becomes still half of the half. That is 1/4, then 1/8, like that. Then what kind of advantage are you going to get out of that? And what will be being transferred to the succeeding generation? So this certainly created a problem. So if Darwin's theory were to be taken very strictly, this blending theory strictly, no evolution will take place. No change will take place. No, at least no serious change will take place. And that will defeat the Darwin's theory completely. And so this is what I'm talking about here. And Mendel's contribution, Mendel gave us you can see here, Gregor Mendel was a biologist, an Augustinian friar, and abbot of St. Thomas Abbey in Brno. Now it is in Czech Republic now. And so he was a Catholic monk, as you know. And Mendel is acclaimed today as the father of genetics. Darwin's theory of evolution could not give a valid explanation for the nature and mechanism of inheritance. It also failed to give adequate explanation for the origin and preservation of biological variation. And so two problems were there: inheritance as one, and the origin and preservation of biological variation. And these things were solved by Mendel's laws of genetics. His different laws, 3 laws, I think, genetics. Okay. And this is the point I am mentioning it here. Okay. Now, okay. The next point I want to discuss is what is the view of scientists or the scientific community towards evolution today? How does the scientific community look upon the theory of evolution today? Okay, and now here I am mentioning from 1940 onwards, most scientists subscribe to the evolutionary view of the evolutionary view, the Darwinian view, although it is not necessarily the Darwinian view, but some form of a Darwinian view, they are subscribing to it. I'm not saying that Darwinian theory is subscribed to by all scientists, serious scientists, because certainly Teilhard de Chardin did not subscribe to the Darwinian theory in its pure form. Some similarities are there, no doubt. And similarly, most of the Catholic, as far as I know, all the Catholic scientists have difficulty accepting Darwinian theory per se, and they all have some kind of a modified version, and usually a theistic version of evolution. Okay. Now, coming to the Catholic Church and evolution, this is the last point I want to discuss: the Catholic Church and evolution. All right. And here something we have already mentioned, so I will not this particular slide I will skip because we have discussed this thing earlier. So let me skip this one. Cardinal Newman also I have mentioned, so I will not talk about it. Cardinal Newman was positive towards it, open towards it. That's all. Next one. Leloy's book was disallowed by the Holy Office in 1895. Leroy, he wrote a book where he showed, he was sympathetic towards the Darwinian theory. Leroy's book endorsed the concept of special transformism according to which the first humans arose through the process of Darwinian evolution up to the point where a soul was to be added by God. Okay, let me put it in simple language. I have given here in bold letters. He held, in his book, he held that the human species was able to evolve without divine intervention to a fully human state, but the soul was missing. You know, everything of a human being could be accounted for by the process of evolution, except the soul. When it came to the soul, God had to intervene. So this is the sum and substance of Leroy's book in 1895. And this was looked upon very, very negatively by the Catholic Church in 1895. You see, and his book was banned. It was not allowed to be published. So that is the thing that he said. Everything in the everything as far as the body is concerned, if you want to put it that way, is okay. Can be explained, can be accepted to have come about through the process of evolution. But the soul cannot be brought about by evolution. For that, God has to specially intervene. But even that was not acceptable in 1895. Next one is another theologian, another scholar, Catholic scholar. He wrote a book, Evolution and Dogma. It was written by John Augustine Zahm. And this was in 1896. This also was disallowed. And a bishop, Bishop Jeremiah Bonamelli, here he saw this and he had approved it actually. You know, he thought it was a good contribution and he approved it. But Bonamelli, the Bishop Bonamelli, was asked to recant his recommendation of Zahm's book. So Rome, Vatican did not approve of it at all. That was in 1896. Again, opposition. Leo XIII. He was Pope Leo XIII. Obviously, he was a progressive type of pope. So he had a more open attitude towards science and less rigid view on the literal understanding of the Bible. As you know, at this time means when Zahm and other people were disallowed or condemned means they were forbidden to publish their book. You see, the Catholic Church was looking upon this creation 6 days in a literal way, and evolution is talking about long period of time and one by one gradual evolution and all those things. You know that this attitude was not this approach was not in agreement with the literal understanding of the Bible, especially the book of Genesis, and that was one of the main reasons why the Catholic Church was opposing it. But with Leo XIII, Pope Leo XIII, that kind of literal understanding and objection on the basis of literal understanding began to wane, began to get reduced, began to become milder. And that is what I'm saying here. And now come the more and more positive attitude. And the Pius XII in 1900. Pardon? Anybody has a question, please?
No.
Hello?
Okay, no problem, Father. You can continue.
Some talk came much way. Somebody talk came much way. Yeah. Pius XII. I will not take much more time. 5 or 10 minutes more I will take. Then we can open up for a question answer. Maximum 10 minutes only I will take. Pius XII in 1950, the famous encyclical Humani Generis. Okay, he was the first encyclical to refer to the scientific theory of evolution. Okay, this encyclical is a highly official proclamation by the Pope and by the Catholic Church. And he this one refers to refers to the scientific theory of evolution. Okay. It made, first of all, the main thing about Pius XII was he made a sharp distinction between the formation of the human and the human soul. He said we have to make somebody's speaker is on. Please put it off, please. Somebody's speaker is on, and I'm getting distraction here. Someone is talking. Please put off your speaker so that okay. Isaiah's, I think it was okay. It's taken care of now. Thank you very much. So he says, this encyclical makes a sharp distinction between the formation of the human body and the human soul. And Pius XII said, I have no difficulty, accepting that the human body could have come through the evolutionary process, but keep the soul out of the picture, out of this thing. For the soul to be formed, there has to be an intervention by God, and it is immediately created by God. The soul is immediately created by God. When the human, the evolution takes place and reaches a certain stage where reflection and self-reflection and so on, or maybe may have come, at that time, God intervenes. God comes and immediately, infuses a soul into that human body, sort of an infusion directly by God into the human body. So he says, this I am willing to concede. And Pope Pius XII was a very open-minded person, a scholar towards science. It may not only with regard to evolution, many other things also. He was keeping track of the scientific developments. He himself must have been, exposed to science quite a lot. And he was very much enthusiastic about science and talked about science and so on. And here also he was studying. And so he said, scientifically, human body could have come, but not the soul. Okay. And also he disapproved of polygenism as contrary to the teaching of the church concerning original sin. Remember last week we discussed this one about polygenism and or a monogenism. That means, is it the case that only one human being was formed, or one pair was formed, or many pairs were formed? That issue. So he says, no, it has to be monogenism. Otherwise, we'll have a problem with original sin, explaining original sin. We discussed this point last time, so let us not spend any more time on this. John Paul II. You see, what I want to point out is what is happening in the Catholic Church, at least, is that gradually the church is learning about this. And gradually you find that as they learn more and more about it without prejudice and prejudice, they become more and more sympathetic or open to the theory of evolution. And this is what is we are noticing. Of course, theory of evolution, not the atheistic version given by Darwin, not that, but evolution, as presented by persons like Teilhard de Chardin and other people. Okay. In 1996, Pope John Paul II said, it just stirred up a lot of controversy. I still remember, reading the newses and debate on this whole business. And he said, evolution is more than a hypothesis, And this is a very important statement. It sounds very innocuous, but it has got a lot of history charged into it. Evolution is more than a hypothesis. See, hypothesis, today people think hypothesis as a sort of a theory which is ready to be, a proposal which is ready to be accepted by the scientific community. But the hypothesis, more than a hypothesis, in the church language, hypothesis simply means, it's just a proposal, just a story, just a theory. It does not have the strong strength which scientific hypothesis has. When it's a scientific hypothesis, And that means the scientist has done quite a lot of work on that. And, this only some, a little bit of, only the experimental, empirical validation is missing. Everything else is there, and there's a very, very good chance that the empirical validation will take place. That is the connotation we normally have in the, when you talk about scientific hypothesis. But here it simply means it's only a proposed, just, just a thinking aloud, as it were. And so I said, it is more than, evolution, more than a hypothesis. That means there is some substance to the theory of evolution. This is what John Paul II wanted to say. There is something serious, something, valuable about this one, and we need to take it seriously. We need to go into it. And if you read the full statement, which I have not given here, then, you will see that he is finding not finals of this thing, but he is saying that many factors, many considerations, and consideration coming from different sources seem to come together, converge to the conclusion that there is something serious, something something substantial about the theory of evolution. And so we need to work on it. We need to study it more seriously and see what happens. This kind of real openness, it was shown by John Paul II, and it became highly controversial. Many people, many church theologians opposed it, and it became a big controversy. We will see a little bit of that later on when we talk about it. Now, at the same time, John Paul II had said this. However, theories of evolution, which because of the philosophies which inspire them, regard the spirit either as emerging from the forces of living matter or as a simple epiphenomenon of that matter, are incompatible with the truth about man. So in other words, that there are theories which say that, that matter became complexified, and when it reached a certain level of complexification in the human being, or the soul just emerged from there. The soul is an emergent emergent property of matter, highly complexified matter, super complexified matter. There are some theories about that. The emergent property or emergent product of that one. He says, no, that I will not accept. And also that the Marxist theory, which says that the soul is an epiphenomenon of matter. The soul is only an epiphenomenon of matter. That some Marxist scholars say that, and that also is unacceptable. So he said, but at the same time, he is willing to take evolution seriously, and is willing to encourage people to study this evolution seriously and see what we can make of it, and how it can be, helpful in understanding the origin, the coming of humans into this world, and what kind of status we should give to it in our Catholic faith. So these points he wanted the theologians and other scholars to study and discuss and make their proposals to him. This was the implication of his statement. Next one, the International Theological Commission in 2004. International Theological Commission, I'm talking about the Catholic Theological Commission, is a very high-powered commission. And at this time, 2004, Cardinal Ratzinger, who became Pope Benedict XVI, was the chairman, the president, the prefect of this one. They call it prefect, or the head of this commission. In July 2004, the International Theological Commission, headed by Joseph Cardinal Ratzinger, stated, converging evidence from many studies in the physical and biological sciences furnishes mounting support for some theory of evolution to account for the development and diversification of life on Earth, while controversy continues over the pace and mechanism of evolution. Basically, what these people are saying is, there's good evidence to think that, the various things in this universe came through some kind of an evolutionary process. There is no, there's very good scientific evidence to think some kind of evolutionary process. That means the process, if you consider it that way, process given in the book of Genesis is not the is not to be not the real way things came into being. First day, second day, third day, and so on. That, strictly speaking, is not the way things came. Some kind of evolutionary process that must have was there. Now, what is that? What kind is the real evolutionary process which have produced all these things, including humans? That's a matter to be still to be clarified. It's still to be found out and clarified. And this is what they're saying. And also that means the mechanism of this evolution, and also the speed with which, whether there was enough time for the evolutionary process to work out, so that all these things, including humans, could appear on this earth in such a short short span of time, that is 4.5 billion years. That pace also is a matter of concern. So this is what the International Theological Commission has given. And as far as I know, this is the last Catholic Church, the most open statement the Catholic Church has made with regard to the theory of evolution, scientific theory of evolution. That the universe, the various things in the universe, including humans, came through a process of evolution. What that process is, it certainly doesn't seem to be the Darwinian process. What that process is yet to be discovered, has to be found out. And so we need to work on that. That seems to be the, sum and substance of this particular International Theological Commission's statement. Now comes something which took place recently. Cardinal Christopher Schonborn, his statement and his debate with Father George Coyne, and here you see, I'll just read it out. This also was a big controversy in the year 2005. Many people, many theologians, especially Catholic theologians, were involved in this. In an article in New York Times, Finding Design in Nature, Schonborn, I don't know how to pronounce this one, so those of you know, please pronounce it correctly, dismissed as vague and unimportant the declaration of Pope John Paul II in 1996 that evolutionary theory is compatible with the Catholic doctrine. As I say, if you get the full statement of Pope John Paul II, you will see that to a great extent he is actually saying the same thing which the International Theological Commission said. And basically he's saying that evolutionary theory is compatible, in some ways compatible with the Catholic doctrine. Only thing is, the exact nature of the evolutionary theory will have to be figured out. And so according to him, according to Cardinal Schonborn, evolution in the sense of common ancestry might be true. But evolution in the neo-Darwinian sense, that is an unguided, unplanned process of random variation and natural selection, is not. And he appeared to support the intelligent design view. That was the big problem. That is why George Coyne had a problem with him. He began, he sort of hinted that he would go by the intelligent design view. That certainly was not acceptable to the scientists. So a big debate took place between the Cardinal and George Coyne. Now, by the way, some of you may ask why I'm talking about Schonborn. Because Schonborn was a very important, very prominent, and very highly respected Cardinal. I think he was the Cardinal of Vienna. He still is, I think. Cardinal. So he was the head of the committee which brought out the new catechism of the Catholic Church. So he headed the committee for bringing out the new catechism of the Catholic Church. So he was a very, very prominent figure and a very highly respected scholar and theologian. And that's why it is very important. Anyway, Now coming to this thing, you see, there was some ambiguity with regard to Cardinal Christopher Schoen's position. Because, 2005 and 6 and so on, he made all these things. But in 2007, he comes up with a book, which is a Chance or Purpose. Chance or Purpose. And he wrote that book. And this, here he accepted with a certain qualification the scientific theory of evolution. So here you see 2007, after all this debate and so on, in this book, he is accepting, the theory of evolution with certain qualifications. And very recently, last week, I was watching the George Cohen, I was listening to George Cohen's interview. And there George Cohen says, if the Cardinal had given me a copy of his manuscript, was ready in 2005. He had shown me his manuscript, then this debate between him and myself would not have taken place. I would have accepted it, And so, what I want to point out, Cardinal Schönborn's view is not very, very consistent, according to George Cohen. So his latest writing in 2007 seemed to raise no serious problem for many of the Catholic theologians who subscribe to the evolutionary perspective. Okay, so let us now proceed further. Pope Benedict XVI, that is in the year 2004, as head of the International Theological Commission, and also again in 2007. In the mid-1980s, Pope Benedict XVI, Cardinal Ratzinger, while serving as the prefect of the Sacred Congregation of the Doctrine of Faith, wrote that humans are not the products of chance and error, nor is the universe a product of darkness and unreason. It comes from intelligence, freedom, and from the beauty that is identical with the love. Now, many scientists will have difficulty understanding and figuring out what this all means because, beauty that is identical with the love and so on and came from there and so on, the universe came. This is a theologian's language. And this is what he said in the 1980s as a theologian. But later on, in 2004, as I already mentioned, he endorsed the view of the International Theological Commission. In 2007, in his Creation and Evolution paper, he writes, the question is not to either make a decision for a creationism that is fundamentally excludes science, or for an evolutionary theory that covers over its own gaps and does not want to see the questions that reach beyond the methodological possibilities of natural science. He's saying that we have to avoid two extremes. One is, creationism, which is, which completely ignores or excludes science. That we cannot accept. On the other hand, which says, that unconditional acceptance of the evolutionary theory, which covers over its own gaps. There are many gaps and questions there, and simply ignores those questions and gaps in the evolutionary theory. That also cannot be accepted. And he says, I find it important to underline that the theory of evolution implies questions that must be assigned to philosophy and which themselves lead beyond the realms of science. So this is a very important statement, I would say, that he is saying that, the issues which are involved in evolution are not purely scientific issues only. There are, this raises issues which science cannot handle, and so one has to have recourse to philosophy, and also, you would have indirectly is mentioning here theology. So this issue is not a purely scientific theory or scientific issue. It is a very complex issue, and so more than science is involved here. And more than scientists should get involved in this debate if the real truth is to emerge. And this seems to be his, statement in this in 2007. right? One more thing I want to mention here is that the Pope Benedict XVI again said that currently I see in Germany, but not only in Germany, but also in the United States, a somewhat fierce battle between the so-called creationism and evolutionism, presented as though they were mutually exclusive alternatives. Basically, he is saying, Pope Benedict is saying in the last sentence on this page, on this slide, Pope Benedict thinks that creation and evolution can be compatible. They need not exclude each other. Creation and evolution can be compatible. They need not exclude each other. That means, basically saying is that we want to have, we want to take certain aspects of creation and also certain aspects of evolution. If these two are properly put together, then we will have a better answer, if not a complete answer, to the question of how the various things in this universe appeared. Okay. And a similar view we will find Pope Francis in his latest proclamation, that is 2014 statement. On 28th October 2014, Pope Francis said, "God is not a magician, but the creator who brought everything to life." More important, next sentence is more important. Evolution in nature is not inconsistent with the notion of creation, because evolution requires the creation of beings that evolve. And this is a very important statement, and many people have quoted this one. Evolution in nature is not inconsistent with the notion of creation, because evolution requires the creation of beings that evolve. In other words, you are saying he's saying that we need creation to produce, to bring forth the fundamental, elementary, unevolved matter, the fundamental matter. As I said, for science, we'll say the fundamental being is energy. But whatever it is, the initial stuff, the primitive stuff, that has to be brought in, and that will be done by creation. And then evolution, takes it up and then allows the thing, allows the forces to work, allows the process to work together, and so that there will be progress and there will be new beings coming out. And through this process, whether it's natural selection or whatever be the forces, by using these different forces or different methods, and various things are produced, and this process, this complex and complicated process, can explain the appearance or the existence of various things in this universe. So basically what he's saying is we need creation, we need also evolution, and how these two can be put together is a matter still to be studied by scientists, philosophers, theologians, and other persons concerned. So this is where the latest position with regard to evolution rests as far as the Catholic Church is concerned.
Father Job, if you can sum up their thing, that would be nice.
Yes. Well, I'm summing. Well, yes, I'm summing up is as I began. Yes, as I began in the beginning, I will sum up. You see that I would go with the Theological Commission's view that when we look at the universe, and when also what the various explanations given for the emergence or for the appearance of various things in our universe, including humans, we have to admit that some kind of evolutionary process must have taken place. Now, what exactly is that process? What factors were exactly involved in that process is still a matter to be discovered or to be worked out. And so I would my request and to scientists, the scientific community, as well as the philosophical theology community, is continue working and continue dialoguing and continue to have an open mind to each other, and also continue to have a tremendous respect, unconditional respect for truth, wherever it leads you and whatever you find, and unconditional respect for truth, and continue doing it. And then the mystery, there's a good chance that the mystery will be resolved. And so we should look forward to that time when the mystery will be resolved, and we will be happy humanity, and we will thank all the people who are involved in making this this process become complete. And so let us wait, and let us encourage our scientists and our thinkers work together and hope for the best. That's what I would want to say.
Thank you, dear Father Job. We'll spend some time asking questions or suggestions. Either you can ask by unmuting your microphone, or you can type in the chat box. Please.
Has anything to say, I can add this question. Someone asked Pope Francis whether dogs go to heaven, and he answered that they're happy. And so I'm just wondering, where in all this is it possible that there's more spiritual life in the animal kingdom, for example, in the whales, or in dogs, or in dolphins, or in elephants, than we can understand? And maybe evolution will understand that there's a spirituality in those animals as well. So that's my question.
Yes, you see, the official position of the Catholic Church would be a straight no to that, that about the dogs, official position as far as I know. Of course, Pope Francis, if he said, of course, he did not really answer the question. He said they're happy and all those things. Of course, that's fine. But anyway, if we subscribe to the Theodian view, Theodian understanding of evolution, which I consider as a Christianized view, there is nothing that prevents one saying that a dog has got a soul or something. That's what they're asking. Only thing is the soul which a dog has is not a human soul. It's a much lower kind of a soul. But what actually goes on in the mind of a dog, assuming that it has got a mind, we do not know. And so I don't see any reason why we cannot say that it has got a soul, but it's a doggy soul, and which is not so developed, and not the type of soul we humans have. And so as I say, I don't find any inconsistency or a problem there, provided we make a distinction between human soul and dog soul. What was the reaction of the church, the Pope, when that was? Sorry, somebody had put that thing and it appeared, and then.
What was the reaction of the church to Pope Pius XII's positive opinion on Darwinian evolution theory? How did the church proceed from there?
Yeah. You see, too many details I would not know. But what happened was that, you see, Pius XII said that as far as science is concerned, science means the theory of evolution is concerned, we can accept that the human body could have come through the evolutionary process. But the soul, of course, for the soul you need of special divine intervention. And that was his idea. And what was the church's objection to it? I do not know exactly, but I don't see why there should be any serious objection to it. You see, whoever asked this question, can you explain why you think that there should be some serious objection from the part of the church to this answer? Because the soul is saying the soul is created, soul is completely created by God, and according to the traditional Catholic theology, it is the soul that survives. The body is separated at the time of death, and the body has nothing to do after that. And so soul is the one who goes to heaven, whatever it is. And so what will be the difficulty in saying that given the scientific explanation and various things, that the body could have come through this thing? So I don't see any serious objection. But what do you have in mind when you ask this question? Can you specify it to me? Then I may be able to answer you, I think.
He continues with evolution. There must have been an origin. Does Darwin acknowledge any source of the different existence of species?
Yeah, Darwin accepted the different existence of species. That is basically what Darwin is saying in his Origin of Species.
There is another question from Wycliffe, Father. What is the real purpose of humans on Earth?
What is the real purpose of humans on Earth?
Yeah.
Again, you see, if you are asking me a traditional answer, that of course in the catechisms you will get, that to praise, reverence, and glorify God. That's a traditional answer. Now, I think I gave you some answer earlier in some context or other. The Theodian answer will be, as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, that God has created this universe and left the universe incomplete. Okay, God has God has given humans a particular role. This is a more or less Theodian thing. The role given to humans is to complete or to make the universe more and more perfect, to make the universe more and more complete. That means for God, our universe is still in the making. Our universe is not a finished product. It is still being perfected. It is still being completed. And God has commissioned humans to do this completion process with the help of God, with the help of the talents and abilities given by God. And the main means by which humans can do this is through science and technology. So if you ask me in this question, and my one sentence answer will be to help God, or to collaborate with God as co-creators or co-workers in the noble mission of completing and perfecting our universe. That's the purpose of humans. That's what I believe in, and that's why I work for. And I'm very happy about that.
Okay.
And this is what gives me the motivation to work very hard. Otherwise, I would have given up all this thing long ago. Anyway.
We don't have a question in the chat box.
Yes, I'm going to look at it now.
Okay.
What was the reaction? We already got. What is the purpose of human on Earth? With evolution, there must have been the origin. Does Darwin acknowledge any source of the different existence of the species? Yeah. So what you're asking is, does Darwin accept the original stuff? We talk about the original stuff. It could have appeared in the form of monocellular beings, or usually we say monocellular beings. And where did these monocellular beings come? You see, I read the Origin of Species long ago, so I cannot guarantee this thing. As far as I know, Darwin doesn't talk about that. Darwin, if I remember correctly, Darwin starts his book with variation. You know, you will find in the universe many the large number of the same thing, large number of amoeba, large number of bacteria, large number of frogs, large number of this one. So variety, variation. He talks about variation first couple of chapters. And in the variations, because there is a variation, there will be differences in the different beings. Different dogs, as I said, will be differences. Some have got long legs, some got short legs, and all those things. And this is how he starts the thing. And he does not ask from where did this bacteria come, who put them there, and who gave them the ability to to move around or to interact and become more and more complex and developed beings. And this kind of that who question he does not address, as far as I can recall. If anybody has read it more recently and can put more light on it, fine. But my recollection is this much. He doesn't bother about that. And if he did bother about that, he was a seminarian. As you know, he was an Anglican seminarian, I think. And so he was a seminarian, I know, Anglican or otherwise, I do not know. But he was a seminarian, and he left the seminary. And so he knew many of these things, Bible and so on, he must have read very carefully. So he doesn't talk about that, as far as I know.
Yes. As of now, this is the last question in the chat box. And if anybody has any other question, please, we will spend a few moments for that. There is one there.
One more? One there?
In the chat box, I think our biological evolution is the foundation of our existence. The purpose of our lives is to continue to evolve during our lifetime by learning and growing.
Yes. Okay. I think our biological evolution is the foundation of our existence. The purpose of our lives is to continue to evolve during lifetime by learning and growing. Yes, that is fine, but that is during our lifetime. Yes, but during our lifetime, yes. But then that is talking about a particular individual only, no? Our lifetime. What about our means the contemporary human's lifetime? What happens after that? In other words, you say, our lifetime, you say, by our, I presume that what you mean is people who are now. And what about the future thing? And what about the rest of the universe? Because evolution includes also the rest of the universe, not just humans only. And I think our biological evolution is the foundation of our existence and the purpose of our lives. Anyway, I don't have any serious objection to this one, but the point is this seems to be very bit narrow. The answer given, the proposal given here, it seems a bit narrow, but otherwise it's true. Biological existence. Biological evolution is the foundation of our existence. No, I would say biological, I will not be happy, because biological talks only about life, but we also got a neurological evolution. Biological and doesn't necessarily include neurological, the brain and soul and spirituality. We also got a spiritual evolution within taking place in us. Spiritual dimension in us is there, and that also is evolving. Not just only the biological. Biological is all right for animals, but humans have got certainly a spiritual dimension. So that is not the only foundation of our existence. It is broader than the biological foundation or biological evolution. Evolution in general, which includes spiritual evolution as well. The spirit in us also is evolving. And the point is, now you are saying learning and growing, and then afterwards you say we are learning and growing, all right. But what happens at the end? We are finite beings, so learning and growing, but at the end, what will happen to us? And what will happen to learning and growing? Because there is an end to the activities we can engage in. And when we are no more able to learn and grow, what is going to happen to us? So that will be my counter question to the person who put this question, Wycliffe, Father Wycliffe. So we could explain my difficulty. What will happen what will happen when I am no more able to learn and grow? Do I stop with
Father, I think, Father, can I engage? I thought, I was thinking that as we are talking about evolution, we are actually evolving on a daily basis. And you see, right now we are young, but we are aging. Tomorrow we shall not be there, but a new generation shall come up. And that's how the earth also is involved.
Yes.
Today, once time, Africa and Europe was one. And because of the nature of evolution, the countries were separated. So that's actually what I was thinking about.
No, that's correct. But I'm just saying that we humans have got something more than just what is available in this world. We have a higher destiny than just learning and growing. We have got a much higher destiny we have, no? Otherwise, what is the point learning and growing for? What am I learning and growing? What is the purpose of that one? You see, I learn and I grow, all right. But then, as I say, a time will come when I cannot learn anymore. I cannot grow anymore, at least as far as we understand learning and growing. What is our destiny?
Our destiny is the spiritual life that we are leading. Actually, Christian, we believe that after death, there's heaven.
Okay. All right. Then no problem. Yes. Okay. Then, of course, my question is in the perspective of evolution. How will you look upon heaven? How will you explain, life after and so on? You see, we'll have to explain heaven. Heaven, you cannot put. Here, you are using a new way of explaining. The traditional Christian way of explaining evolution. Explanation in terms of evolution is not the traditional Christian way of explaining. And then you see what I'm saying is about heaven, life after also we'll have to explain in terms of evolutionary process or some kind of evolutionary process. Otherwise, the integration, it becomes inconsistent, or the integration will be incomplete. In an integrated way, this evolutionary process and also life after death will have to be explained in an integrated way. Think about it. I'm just saying that what is heaven, what is heaven? You have to what will I say? Reinterpret your understanding of heaven or life after death. You have to understand. Just as you have reinterpreted your thing away from the traditional Christian way about your development or even evolution and so on. Similarly, life after also will have to be explained in a new way. That is what I understand.
Okay, Professor Dr. Father Job Kozhamthadam, thank you very much for the session. And thank you, dear participants, for the session, because Father Pamplani was not able to present here. I am just hosting the entire session. So thank you, dears, and have a good night.